Let me know when you're ready, Billy.
Thank you.
You're good. Okay, it looks like we're live. We'd like to just do a quick roll call for this evening's continuation of the public hearing for Medline Industries Water and Sewer. That is two separate public hearings we'll be continuing this evening. Tara Stickles, our town clerk, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome, welcome. Our town attorney, Will Frank.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Our town water sewer consultant through Delaware Engineering, Mike Aiello.
Here.
Thanks for joining us, Mike.
What's up?
Councilwoman Sherry Mellick.
What does that
I'm
mean?
here. I'm here. I'm here.
All right. Councilwoman Cindy Voss.
I'm here.
Councilwoman Kristen Brown.
Here.
Deputy Supervisor Ron Feller.
Here.
Myself. I'm here. And we're going to make a motion to open or recontinue, Will, the Medline Industries public hearing for sewer first.
We can do sewer first. May I normally don't do this, but may I ask for a moment of silence? We lost Judge Milligram this morning.
Yes, very sad.
He was an esteemed member of the bar for many years, recently elected to Orange County Supreme Court, and he lost his battle, his rather courageous battle, COVID-19. So, Mr. Supervisor, if you would, I'm asking you to call for a moment of silence for Judge Stephen Milligram.
Absolutely. We will have a moment of silence for the judge. Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, we're continuing both the sewer extension and the water district extension petitions for Medline Industries. We previously had discussion, we had presentation from the petitioner, we had questions from the board previously, and because we were waiting on the secret review by the planning board as lead agency, at the request of the petitioner, the public hearings were both continued, and we have now received a finding statement from the town planning board, which was adopted as of last night, which I'm sure that when you ask the applicant, the petitioner's counsel for their remarks, they will share that with the board and the public. So that's where we are.
Thanks, Will. So just need a motion to reopen the public hearing for the sewer connection. We do one at a time or both, Will?
We could do them one at a time. I think the facts and the circumstances are relatively similar for the requests of the petitioners, but we can do them separately, and I'm sure the second one will be somewhat shorter than the first.
Sure, and since sewer has a lot of the information specific to capacity, and I assume many of the questions or concerns, we'll start with that one. So would anyone from the board like to make a motion to recontinue our public hearing, Medline Industries connection to our sewer district?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Councilman Brown,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilwoman Mellick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. The public hearing is now open. Billy,
for the-
anyone via Zoom? Okay, is there anyone on Zoom currently that has something to say as part of our public hearing before our board comments?
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes.
I think just for purposes of the record, could we just have the petitioner make a few opening remarks before you open it up, please?
Yeah. Good evening.
Is that okay? Is that okay, Mr. Supervisor?
Absolutely. Sure. Go ahead, John.
I think we should just have some quick remarks, John.
Good evening, everyone. I'm John Capello with Jacobitz and Gubitz on behalf of Medline. I'm here with Kelly Ash, our project engineer, Bonnie Van Osen, our project planner, and Larry Walensky. my partner and attorney who's done the majority of the work here. As you stated, we're here for a continuation of the hearing that has been open several times, but most recently was on March 5th. We made a presentation to the board. At that time, we had received the updated flow report, and we submitted to your board the updated reports that were reflected the new figures that we received from your engineering consultants, as well as the new allocation fees, which for sewer was $103,000 in change, which was negotiated based upon the new flows. We took comments at that point, and at that point, once again, as was stated, the hearing was held open because at that point, the FEIS was about to be accepted as complete. And since then, the FEIS has been accepted as complete. And the last evening, the planning board adopted the findings under seeker for this, during which they made, based upon, once again, review of their engineer, review of all the documentation, certain findings regarding both sewer and water services as to what the conditions would be for the hookup, the allocation, which recited Mr. Aiello and Delaware engineers' conclusions, and really, determined both on sewer and water that there is capacity available, and that we're hoping now the board will consider, because seeker has been completed, issuing its own findings and issuing an order extending the sewer district. That will then allow us to go to the DEC for sewer and health department for water to get the actual connections in the design approved. I would note that both the DEC and the Department of Health have been involved agencies under seeker, as your board has, and has received the DEIS, the FEIS, and the findings are also going out to them probably in the next day or so. All their comments to date have been responded to, so we believe we are ready to go and are happy with our project team to respond to any questions the board members may have.
Okay, we'll start with any members of the public that have comments, and then we'll get into the town board and any issues you have going forward. Anyone on the Zoom from the general public that has a statement for the record? Okay, I'm gonna check the comments line. Yep.
Excuse, I'm sorry, this is Karina. I was waiting for somebody else to go first, but I guess it's gonna have to be me.
Go ahead, Karina.
Karina Tipton, Village of Montgomery. I spoke at one of the previous meetings on public hearings on the water and sewer extension question about the possibility of the town entering into this agreement with Medline that would cause a growth inducement for additional construction without full evaluation of the town. The environmental issues for the extension of the water and the sewer were not considered by the planning board as part of the secret process because these issues extended into future uses that are not related to the Medline project. So it was not the responsibility of the applicant or of the planning board to evaluate them in full at this time. And I just wanted to call to your attention the fact that these issues, these related issues having to do with over 1,000 acres of land on the Village of Montgomery side of the project that are currently zoned industrial and agricultural have not been evaluated at all. The state and the other agency reviews that were referred to as part of the secret process has not been inclusive of this issue either. They've been focused on the site plan, on the activities on the site by the applicant. They don't consider any of the additional cumulative impacts that could happen because of the extension of water and sewer to this side of the town. What is happening now, though, is that the town is undertaking work as part of the comprehensive plan process. So we do have an opportunity to do some of that evaluation right now on our own. And I think it's really critical that we have the space and the time for the comprehensive plan committee as they're going through different evaluations to take a look at this. And what I want to emphasize to you right now is that there really is no rush to adopt water and sewer right now to Medline. And I'm saying that with full understanding that I haven't been part of any of the conversations between the applicant and the town board. I did send to the secretary today, and she distributed to you all a visual which if you wouldn't mind taking a quick look at, this represents kind of like, this is a timeline, which really represents what I would call kind of worst case conditions, right? And I don't know the specific dates for any of this stuff. I've just been kind of keeping up at home. I'm not involved in any of these conversations necessarily, but to the best of my understanding, what we're looking at in terms of upgrading the wastewater treatment plant, we're not looking at an upgrade happening until, you know, the end of 2022, right? And I understand that currently we could provide sewer capacity. I'm speaking specifically right now to the sewer capacity issues with the wastewater treatment plant. But if there's any issues with I&I issues, which continue to pop up, I mean, we thought we had them fixed in the past and they continue to pop up, that would necessitate contracting and renovating the Baxter plant, right? So I put that onto the timeline as kind of a worst case situation to show you that we still have at least 5 or 6 months, right, before that decision has to be made, before that go point is like, are we going to do it under the current wastewater treatment plant, or we need to leave room in the timeline for the Baxter plant to come up to speed? There's a few open issues that I hope the town board will pause and consider, right? If the I&I issues continue, are additional repairs going to be needed to provide discharge capacity to Medline, and how are we going to pay for that? What's the evaluation on the capacity of the current wastewater treatment plant under the existing permit? And are we overpromising our capacity to existing users and other landowners on Neely Town Road who are eager to develop? Should the town do a full evaluation of the impact of providing a water and sewer line to the neighborhood of approximately 1,500 acres of zoned industrial and agricultural land that's previously unserved by infrastructure near the Orange County Airport? And the really big question that I have for the town is does the sewer agreement as currently negotiated, does that include significant the funds that are required if we have to get the Baxter plant online? And I'm asking that because in the environmental impact statement that Medline put together, it's been approved by the planning board and adopted by the planning board as their own, they promise that they will pay for bringing the Baxter plant online. And if you're voting to provide water and sewer to Medline right now, I'm asking, you know, as a resident and a taxpayer, that you confirm that the full cost of bringing the Baxter plant online, which could include a lot of repairs, it could include a lot of unforeseen circumstances. It's been kind of mothballed for a really long time, and I've never seen the Baxter plant. I don't know what it looks like. It could be pretty hairy. When when systems that previously have held water are decommissioned, they're not always decommissioned in the best way. And you can run into a lot of situations where you may have a bid from one contractor to do the recommissioning. You may have one price, and they're going to run into unforeseen circumstances, and there's going to be a lot of change orders. So before you move forward with this, what I'm asking you to do is to confirm, to make sure that you've got the right cost in place, or some kind of a vehicle for Medline to pay more money, right, to bring the Baxter plant online, because they've said, we will pay for the Baxter plant because we know we are the ones that need it. And I'm sorry, just one quick thing. I really
Sure.
also would like to ask you all to consider how the comprehensive plan and the moratorium can be used to take a little pause right here and to go through those evaluations and to make sure that they're super ironclad. Thank you.
Thanks, Karina.
Yeah.
So a few things. I know you kind of hit
And
on.
then I could,
No, John, don't worry about it. Let me
Okay.
try to address it. Okay, John?
okay, just
All
let me
right.
know if you need.
All right. Thanks, John. So, Karina, I had some time today when I got your information. You gave me a couple hours, which I appreciate. I spoke to Medline. I spoke to Mike Aiello, and just wanted to make a few clarifications. I wanted to get specific on the numbers so that the community knows, and so everybody on the call knows who's watching. So we had a memo put together by Delaware Engineering where they basically did a study on all of the construction that's going on, whether it's completed construction or going through the approval process. 105 Bracken, Mondelez, 84 Square, 134 Neelytown, 915 17K, Galaxy, which isn't even close in the planning process, Bracken 20, and including Medline. If you totaled all of those and how many gallons that they would use as part of our capacity, we would still be under our capacity. With that being said, I think we all know that we need to address our infrastructure. The town board has asked Delaware Engineering to prepare several studies and get cost estimates on what those studies will cost us at the town level. The first is a comprehensive water sewer infrastructure plan not just to address our current infrastructure needs that need to be addressed, i.e. a new wastewater treatment plant and or a Baxter upgrade, but also other areas of the town that we might want to invest in terms of providing infrastructure to attract the types of businesses that we, through the comprehensive plan process and other conversations, we identify the businesses that we want to bring in here, and to ensure potentially we have an opportunity to either partner with some of those private investors, get grant money, or invest in that capital improvement ourselves. Specific to the capacity, we had, it was explained to us that we had about, I think, 18,000 gallons capacity. But over the last 12 months, due to the fixes that we've made and invested in for the I&I issues that you were speaking of, we actually were able to increase that capacity to 25,500 gallons. And that's something that Mike Aiello will be better to explain, and I'll allow him to do that in a second. But I just think it's important to know that we do have capacity. And although that Medline is going to be a chunk of that, it's in year one, initially, it'll be 2,618 gallons. And in full build out in year 7, it will be 6,611. And again, we have 25,500 in capacity. But again, if you total up everybody, including Medline built out in year 7, we're still under capacity. Also, that's many years out. And we have a plan in place that we're not sitting on our hands. We're really getting aggressive on tackling our infrastructure needs here in the town of Montgomery. Specific, again, I'm sorry, you have so many bullet points. I'm trying to hit on all of them. Specific to the town of Montgomery and Medline's negotiation. So prior to myself getting elected, our new board, and Delaware Engineering becoming specific to water and sewer consultants, the previous supervisor and administration negotiated a $75,000 contribution from Medline as a buy-in for water sewer. It would be $75,000. We took a look at that when I got in office, and we said, you know what, we don't know that that's enough. So we had Mike Aiello and Delaware Engineering with Bill Bright and Mary Beth put together a process where they evaluated what a fair buy-in would look like based on infrastructure improvements within that sewer district and the water district over the last 30 years to make it fair for a company like Medline to put in their due, if you will, and make it more fair for the other individuals who have been putting into those infrastructure improvements that already reside and have resided in that sewer district for the last 30 years. That number jumped to $103,414.82 just for sewer. And the water buy-in would be $68,355.07. So over the last couple of months, we were able to negotiate an additional nearly $100,000 contribution to Medline. Now, Medline did say specifically that initial $75,000, and again, this is only my recollection and my conversations with Medline, would be used towards Baxter when they were dealing with the previous supervisor. What I wanted to see was just the overall contribution be used for infrastructure improvements as a whole. So we had more flexibility as a town to spend it in a manner that we would like to. Maybe we don't decide to have Baxter go online. Maybe we decide we can handle the capacity right now, and we're just going to only invest in the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. Or, you know what I mean? I don't know that for sure. We don't know that. We haven't made that decision as a board. But in order to have more options, I didn't want it to be specific about the Baxter plant upgrade. And also, in speaking with our consultants, we don't yet have a number to quantify how much the Baxter plant upgrade would be. So it would also be tough to make an ask. What we have been able to do, partnering with Medline, and again, some people will take this for what it's worth. I think we have created a good relationship to date. They are willing to put in an additional amount later on top of the $171,000 that this buy-in is going to create to address whatever our infrastructure improvements are in that area, because they want to be a good neighbor. So I hope that answered a bunch of your questions, Karina, and concerns. Speaking specifically to the moratorium and the comp plan committee, I think your question answers itself. You guys are absolutely going to be able to support the town board. We're going to, I think, work in concert with you over the next 6 months to a year, and also with Delaware Engineering as they hopefully take on our water sewer comprehensive plan. There's a lot of work to be done, and I think working together, we're going to get a lot done serving our community. Now, Mike Aiello, I just want to have someone else, anyone other than Karina, from the public standpoint that had a comment. John Capello, I know you want to comment, but I would ask you to hold off first to see if we have any other comments from the public. I'm going to check the conference line. Anybody from the conference line have any comments from the public?
Hello?
Yes. Hey, Beverly, do you have a comment for the public hearing?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
It actually kind of goes along with both the water and the sewer.
Sure.
A while back, it was stated that the businesses along 17K corridor, they don't have town water and sewer. They have their own. And all of the buildings along Bracken Road, they only have water for fire. Lakeview has a water district, Hyman has a water district, there's water district number 1. And these are all specific water and sewer districts for regions. Why would we alienate those and give Medline its own, have them come in? It's just not, it just seems like it's special favors. And that's all.
Thank you, Beverly. Thank you for your comment. Anyone else have any other comments or statements for the public hearing? We don't have anyone on the conference line, and I don't have any texts. Are there anyone else on the Zoom that has something else to say? Okay, any board members of the board that have any comments or questions for our consultants and the applicant and/or?
Hi, Brian, can you hear me?
Yes, Councilwoman Brown, you have the floor.
Okay, sorry, I just pressed a lot of buttons and a lot of things happen. Can Mike Aiello go through, you made a comment before that Mike Aiello is on the call to make some comments about our plant. Can he go through that before I go through my questions?
Sure, Mike, do you have something, a quick synopsis you'd like to say about our capacity and at the plant?
Well, you pretty much summed it up. Yeah, the current capacity is 25, reserve excess capacity is 25,500. It's increased since the first of the year because it's more months have been averaged in since the repair was made over the summer to the leak in the sewer main. So yeah, this at the end of 2019, so the first of the year, the capacity, we're working with a reserve capacity number of, what do we say, just under 18,000 gallons per day, and I'd say it's increased to about another 7,000, so about 25,500.
Thanks, Mike.
Can you give us a percentage on that, Mike?
Sorry?
Mike, instead of the gallons, can you equate that to a percentage of capacity, the 18,000 and the 25,000?
So the 18, I'm just doing some math here, bear with me. So the first of the year, there's about 12% excess capacity. Now there's probably 17% excess capacity.
Thank you.
If I may just ask a question, and either John or Kelly can answer this. Are these figures from the report still accurate that by year 3, the anticipated average daily demand will be 4,158? Is that a yes?
Yes, those numbers are still accurate.
So in year 7, just for the public's knowledge, and in case the board doesn't have the petition in front of them, by year 7, we have an average daily demand of 6,611 gallons. Is that also,
Yeah.
that's still correct, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you.
Kristen, you want to run through your questions?
Yep, sounds good. First question, I'll go to Will. Will, what is our legal obligation if other areas or other plots of land that are currently in the sewer district, in the existing sewer district, become developed and want to connect? Do they legally have to connect to our system or wastewater treatment plant if they're in district?
Not necessarily. It depends on what their demand is, what type of capacity they're looking for, and various other factors. There's no automatic, it depends on the projected usage is one of the questions. And there are other factors. Everything is case by case.
Okay, so we wouldn't be held liable if we did not have capacity in our plant to handle them.
Not necessarily.
Okay. So now let's go back to Mike Aiello. Did the I know this is not to do directly with Medline, but it does have to do with our plant. Did we get the INI issues that were stated previously this year? It came up during previous board meetings that we were looking at them, but then we got too much rain, the flow, we couldn't actually get a good handle on the INI. So do we still have existing INI issues out there that are contributing to the flow of our plant?
Yes, on average, about a little more than 15,000 a day.
Okay, because according to your report dated February 13th, 2020, you do state in here that both scenarios assume that there's no reduction to the current INI, but is it appropriate to say that we could have additional INI over time with the aging infrastructure that we currently have?
Oh, certainly. Infrastructure ages. That's what.
Okay, so we talked about the Baxter plant, and Brian said we're unsure of how we're going to bring that online, whether we need to or not. So I can't really ask a whole lot of questions about that, but we also brought up about increasing the contact time chlorination tank to get additional treatment volume through our plant. Is there any plans for that currently underway for doing that project?
No, Delaware Engineering has proposals before the town board that hasn't been approved yet or executed.
Yeah, so there's no decides we can't move forward on that. So we're back to our original availability in our plant, which according to our DEC permits is at 147,500 gallons per day. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, the idea that we are looking at a new plant in the future is all contingent on funding. I mean, that's where we're at, right? The plans were approved by DEC and now we're looking at funding options.
Correct.
Okay. And another, just a statement, we're looking at funding options during a potential recession. So, I mean, we don't know what's going to continue with this COVID-19, whether we would be able to fund a new plant in the future or not.
The district, yeah, correct. That's something the town board as administrator of the district has to determine.
Right. So this decision of allowing an outside user into the potential district really is something that we need to consider, not as a light thing at all, because to me, I think we need to consider interesting. One of your last lines in your report, Mike, says, since all improvements come at a cost, the town should consider sources of capacity allocation from prospective users, particularly those outside of the service area. So that's just a comment for the other board members. Moving on, another comment I'd like to make. Karina Tipton said this briefly before. Thank you, Mike, for your comments.
You're
by
welcome.
the way. So Karina stated before, the idea that this allowing Medline into this this district that we're talking about roughly opens up about 1,150 acres of land directly adjacent to the village. Most of it's currently used for agricultural purposes. And just another statement, with the current COVID-19 pandemic, national food chains are being broken, and there's more of a focus on local food. I mean, that's something that we started talking about a little bit before, but I really think we need to consider the agricultural farmland that are adjacent to this piece of property and around it. the idea of allowing the pipe to go under 84 could potentially open up a vast area of land that could be developed. Page 9 of the Kimley and Horn report actually goes through and details potential expansion. If you guys did get a chance to read through that, it's actually right below section D. There's no other properties that will benefit by the proposed. Currently, no other properties will benefit by the proposed expansion. However, sewer district extension, including the extension of the sewer force main along 416, provide potential opportunities for projects and or future developments north of the development to connect to the municipal sanitary sewer district distribution system. The pump station will be designed to serve the petitioner's facility, and any extra capacity provided for the design of the pump station will be in the direction of the town during final review and approval. So they state right in their document, which is last revised March 4th, 2020, that it could potentially open up other areas directly adjacent to the village. So my concern is the cumulative impacts of extending this district across and under 84. And they, to my knowledge, have not been evaluated. I do serve on the comprehensive plan committee along with Cindy. We have not come up with an idea of where, the community also has not developed, where do we want to continue to develop? You know, I know there is some land along Neely Town Road available, but you know, previous plans have actually stated going out along 84. Are we going to continue the Gateway Overlay District, I believe it was called, which is directly adjacent to 84, and try to develop industrial areas out that way? Or, you know, just the fact that we have not, are we going to expand in the direction of Neely Town Road? There's no traffic study. That's what was discussed numerous times at planning board meetings. The cumulative impacts of these continuous developments along Neely Town Road. If we allow the sewer district to extend under 84, it opens up that 1,150 acres of land. There could be more potential cumulative impacts on Neely Town Road beyond just the sewer and the traffic. That I just feel like this is just a start. Do we have any comments, Brian, from Mayor Steve Brescia, especially with this as being so close to his village, or the village of Montgomery?
We did not receive any other comments since the last hearing, aside from the ones that Tara has forwarded. And no, we did not get one from Steve Brescia.
Okay. Has anyone reached out to him to see what the impacts of opening up that industrial area directly adjacent to the village of Montgomery could be? There, especially with how they've just come down, they've just enacted a moratorium on commercial development also.
No, but I think you hit a good point. And I think what we've done proactively as a board is we enacted a moratorium on large warehouses over 40,000 square feet. So at this moment in time, the number one market for what that industrial land would be is put on pause. So I think that should give the community a little sense of understanding that things won't happen, particularly in the next year, to increase that capacity, at least on that 416 end, specifically talking about that 1,000 acres being opened up and even further neighboring 416 in the village of Montgomery.
Yes,
but Steve Brescia, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, Steve Brescia, I'm sure, is going to be interested in taking part in the comprehensive plan process, as are the other three mayors of our villages. And I'm sure that throughout the process over the next year, we're going to get his feedback and our community's feedback on how we want to develop not just that area, but throughout the town.
Yes, but that area that I'm referencing right now, yes, you're right. The moratorium is enacted, so the adjacent land that's in the town. But there's been references in these studies to actually having the force mains and the water lines go beyond actual Medline industries for potential development past Medline. And
okay.
There's actually land that's next to the village that could be potentially developed for industrial use.
Understood, but not really, not in the next year, because the main use for industry would be a warehouse, and we just put a moratorium in place of warehouses over 40,000 square feet. So I understand the concern, but I think we've been proactive by passing our moratorium to address that specific concern right now.
Yeah, but
Can I respond just
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody understands that pump station was put in its location at the request of the town as good planning. It does not give any person any right to utilize it. None of the properties being mentioned beyond Medline are in a district right now. They would have to go through the same process that Medline is going through. You would have to determine, hopefully after coming out of your comprehensive plan and doing all the studies that you intend to do, whether there's going to be one extra drop of sewer going through that pump station, or whether any of those properties will be developed, and if they're developed, how they would be developed. Medline as responsible citizens, your engineering consultants as responsible engineers, and the planning board as responsible planning board said, when you are designing it and putting this line here, provide the option that if you do determine whether it's warehouses, whether it's any type of use there that needs sewer capacity, whether it's appropriate to have it, you have that option. But it is solely 100% in your control as to what the ultimate zoning will be for that area, what the ultimate, whether those properties should be put into the district, and how it would be controlled. And what of any of the panoply of options you have, it's all in your discretion, not in Medline's discretion. Medline, just by developing in its manner, didn't take any of those options off the table for you. That's what good planning is. You will determine, and the voters for future boards will determine how that area will be developed and what the potential impacts. But trying to anticipate what could potentially go there, when you yourself, as just stated, you're doing a moratorium and a comprehensive plan, is impossible. So it's in your court to determine what, if anything, you want to see there. And Medline is prepared to go, on with its development, regardless if there's any development. It has no desire to, but it just reiterates that you talked about food chain and COVID. There's nothing more important than the medical supply and PPE chain that is going on. Much of it coming from from Medline. And if you're looking at the potential impacts of recession, having more money coming into that district to fund the I&I repairs, because this is new infrastructure. The I&I is based upon old infrastructure. You're getting $103,000 in fees, plus you're getting user fees from Medline that could be utilized by the district for those repairs, because you don't want to be treating sewage and all of that is going to occur whether Medline, is developed or not. So, and finally, when you're coming out of a recession, you want to have some jobs for those people. And this is the most recession-proof industry, not warehousing in general, medical supplies and the medical supply chain, given what's current. Medline grew and prospered during our last recession. And, if we have to go through it again, Medline would grow and prosper. And those people who are losing opportunities in those other developments would have places to go to work, to be able to pay their taxes, to be able to live in this community and, continue. So everything you talked about, Medline only contributes in a positive manner to help.
All right.
Situation.
I agree with you, John. I think Medline I don't think they're a bad company. They run a very well-run warehouse when I actually toured the site in Wayanda. But that's not why we're here tonight. I mean, I know I made those comments before. You're welcome to, thank you for addressing them as the project or the project attorney. But, getting back to actually the piece at hand is exactly what you said. It does open up that area to other development, and that needs to be considered as the town, like you said, the town previously asked to come up, engineer that forest main and that pump station in a way that could potentially be developed later on. Those are all items that need to be discussed now if if the Medline project is going to be allowed in our district.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, Kristen?
No, my last question was actually for you, Brian. Besides the
All right.
site plan and SCU, is this the last approval for Medline to move forward?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah. Last night at the planning board, they approved the finding statement. So outside of our resolution, if we pass it tonight or not, is there anything else that Medline needs to move forward?
I think the only thing that might come up is a similar escrow agreement that we put together with Amazon Development. That is something that might take place in the next couple days or next Thursday at our meeting. That's the only thing I can think of. But I believe even without this piece, they could move forward if they wanted to start construction tomorrow. But not tomorrow, but obviously they'll need some approvals. But yeah, I think just the escrow agreement off the top of my head, Kristen, answer
Yeah,
the
because
question.
they need site plan and SCU. I don't think that was approved last night at the planning board.
No, I think there are a couple smaller items, but this is just right now we're taking in the water and sewer connection.
Yeah. No, that was all my questions.
Okay. Any other board members have any other questions, comments as part of the?
Yeah, I
public
got a
hearing?
question, Brian, if I could.
Go
If maybe Mike can do some fast math for me, if he could. Fast forward to when Medline comes on board, and they're coming on board at 6,000 gallons plus or minus. Add that to the 4 or 5 projects that you mentioned when you opened up your statement, that add their capacity for that 4 or 5 coming on board.
8.
Add that 6, 8. Okay. Do you have the capacities for them?
Yeah, I have.
Can you add those? Can you add those capacities up? Add the 6,000 for Medline, and tell me what the percentage of what percentage would be at of capacity of what 146 is.
You're going to be right. You're going to be right at it. You're going to be right at it. I'm going to do the math real quick, but you're going to be.
When you
just
say
about
right at it, you mean right at 95% or right at 100%? What right at what?
I mean, I'll do the math real quick. Just give me 1 minute, but you're going to be close to 100%. You're also going to be 7 years in time, at which point we will have either acted on as responsible elected officials, a Baxter improvement, increasing capacity to 190,000, or a new wastewater treatment plant, which would increase capacity to 250,000. So we couldn't just say that based on us doing nothing.
Well, I'm asking a question based on current capacity. Because
So
I was on the
7
board
years
12 years ago when we discussed the Baxter plant, and that was 12 years ago, and I haven't done anything since, but that's okay.
Was I supervisor 12 years ago, Ron?
No, 3 times removed, I think it was.
All right. Hold on a second. 1,500 plus 1,500. Oh yeah, still under. So 15,881. So that still leaves 7 years from now us under capacity by 10,000. But you also have to take into account I&I. That's why I don't like hypotheticals. But to answer your question, simple math is we would still be under by about just under 10,000 gallons in capacity 7 years from now.
So you're saying the other eight projects are only a total of 4,000 gallons?
Yeah, correct. So it's 15,881 with all 8 combined, including Medline in year 7.
And that's 15,000 taken. All right, we're still using 146 as the base.
Yes.
So we would be at less than 95% capacity. Is that correct?
Yeah, that'd be correct.
Yeah, and that's saying, Brian, I'm sorry, Ron, is that saying that we won't have any additional I&I if we continue at the same pace of I&I?
No, I can't venture to guess I&I. I was in Con Ed. We had similar problems with not with sewer, but you know, there's always going to be underground structures are always going to collapse. So it's part of the game. You know, that's the way of a maintenance program.
And
So,
there
okay.
was I'm sorry.
And that was not, Brian, the purpose of that question, I thought was going to get us to a capacity over 95% in all honesty. Okay. I'm glad that the numbers show it's not going to be over 95%.
So that also add into the project that was also on the planning board last night, the 134 Neelytown Road.
That does include 134 Neelytown Road. I'm reading directly from the Delaware Engineering report that you quoted on February 13th from Mike Aiello. It does include 134 Neelytown Road as well.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. It does at the top. I see that 1,500 gallons per day. But there, I mean, this is a fluctuating document, just as.
Yeah, and listen, we're not going to do nothing. Whatever happened 12 years ago, we have Delaware completely prepared to give us estimates. They were prepared last meeting. If it wasn't for COVID, we probably would have acted on paying, getting them on board to put that plan together for our Baxter and our Delaware, and we have the money to do it in our sewer fund. And honestly, for me, speaking to the value of having a company like Medline in our sewer district, you're talking about making significant infrastructure improvements in one sewer district. And again, I want to reiterate for the public at large, so everybody understands. I had to learn this myself. The town does not pay for that. It's paid by the sewer district. So by putting Medline, a very large user with a ton of resources, in that district, you're doing a service to every other person in that district and not a disservice to the rest of the town, in my opinion. I think having them in the district is going to contribute to the infrastructure improvements that we all agree need to be made, whether they're fixes of I&I or massive capital improvements that need to be ponied up. So that's just my take on it. Separate from whether you agree with Medline or not, this is specific to water and sewer connection and their value to being included in our district. Also, I don't think we've talked enough about the fact that if we didn't put them into our water and sewer district, it's not as if they're going to go home and not build anyway. And if you force Medline to be in a position to build something on site or to purchase more land and put something on site, we have less control over the operations of that. And with their close proximity to the Wallkill River, and I think we all have a little uneasiness about the specific site, which is why we enacted a moratorium in the first place to help in those areas closer to 416 as well that potentially could develop into large warehouses. Having control over that infrastructure, having it be our infrastructure, will allow us to address any needs while it's so close to the Wallkill River. So I see a lot of positives specific to the water sewer connection, and I'm happy to address any issues you guys still have with us before we go forward.
But Brian, you said money to do, and your quote was money to do in our sewer funds. What are you referencing? Money to do what in our sewer funds? To actually pay for the Delaware Engineering, the plan? Or?
Yes, I'm talking about
not referencing making adjustments to our current plans.
So when we get the study paid for, the study will come back to us with two parts. And we talked about this when we had Delaware Engineering do their comprehensive showcase to the board on what they offer. And it was about them giving us estimates. And when they put their plans together, which we have the money to pay for, which is what I was referencing, we will see in those plans when they're completed what the projects will cost. At that point, we will have already paid Delaware to also be our advocates through the individuals that they have lobbying at the state and federal level to secure funding to pay for our capital improvements. And if we can't secure 100% funding in state or federal aid for our wastewater treatment plant upgrades, we will potentially have to bond it out. And that's something that we will have to put in place that will affect our sewer district each year.
So you also stated about the close proximity to the Wallkill River.
Yeah.
For the New York State Design Standards for Immediate Sized Wastewater Treatment Systems, March 5th, 2014, put out by New York State DEC. Page B4, Article B.7, groundwater monitoring well requirements for systems greater than 30,000 gallons per day. We're talking Medline, according to the Delaware Engineering study, is going to be at maximum 6,611 gallons per day at build out year 7. According to this DEC document, it states subsurface disposal is frequently the choice for smaller systems. So therefore, subsurface, such as absorption trenches, beds, and there's a whole list of them, is the preferred design for smaller treatment usage.
Okay.
So I would take a look at that document, Brian, before you quote other things.
Mike, you were in the meeting in public. You talked about the value of having control over our infrastructure and the potential buy-in of having Medline into our water and sewer districts. Can you speak to that as our water sewer consultant? I understand what you referenced. I understand DDZ and what you're saying, but the reality of the situation is you'll either have what Medline will develop if they don't connect to our water and sewer, or we'll have control over the infrastructure improvements that we know need to be made and its safety. But Mike, please, if you could speak to that.
Well, again, you summed it up pretty well. Really not much more to add. It's if they want to go subsurface, I suppose they would have proposed it, but they 6,000, rounded up to 7,000 gallons a day of build out, and the whole scheme of things isn't huge. It's still enough that it'd be nice. I shouldn't speak up on Medline's behalf. And again, they're the ones that petitioned, but I assume they'd rather have be sending flow to a treatment plant that they don't have to maintain, as opposed to building a facility of their own, whether it be subsurface or direct discharge to the Wallkill. But
Brian, I can answer that. I mean, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
The first thing DEC is going to say, if you put in a subsurface disposal with a municipal plant yards away, is why aren't you connecting into the municipality? That's the first comment you're going to get, because I've done numbers of projects, and reading a regulation out of context like that, I'm sorry, is not correct. I mean, the Medline property is virtually adjoining the sewer district. And it's ironic to me that folks would argue for a subsurface system so close to the Wallkill River when we have a permitted treatment plant, a quarter mile or even less away that can easily be connected to. So I think that point, that it was your point really, Brian, but I think that has to be emphasized. I think it's not only is it the smart thing to do, but it's the environmentally responsible thing to do. We would have had, if we proposed a subsurface treatment plant, we would have had, I promise you, the public would be screaming about the impacts of sewage, potential impacts of sewage into the Wallkill River, and therefore, I just don't buy the argument that there should have been a subsurface system here.
All right. Thanks, Larry. Any other comments from the board? Ron, did you have anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Sherry, Cindy, anything?
I'm perfectly fine, thank you. No, I'm good too.
Okay. Kristen, anything else?
Yeah, Brian, I recommend you read that DEC site design standards from intermediate. I can give you this, and this is based on professional engineers at New York State DEC. Sorry, Larry, but it's not based on attorneys.
All right. Thanks, Kristen. I appreciate that. All right. Anyone else from the general public who has not spoke? Anyone else who's on that I missed? No text messages or anyone on the conference line? All right. Would anyone like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
I'll make that motion.
All right. Motion made by Cindy, seconded by Ron Feller. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I oppose. Sorry, I missed that. I was a little late.
No worries. One opposed. Any abstentions? All right. Motion carried 4-1. Now we'll like to have someone entertain a motion to open the public hearing for Medline Industries to tap into our water district.
Wait,
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilman Voss. Motion made by Councilwoman Melick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Anyone from the general public that has any comments related specific to the water? I know obviously everyone spoke in the last public hearing, but if anyone had something specific to the water connection.
Mr. Supervisor, could you just ask one more time for the petitioner to make a very brief synopsis before you go to the public?
Sure thing. Go ahead, John.
Good evening again, everyone. The sewer is the same time frame as the water is the same time frame as the sewer hearing. We were before the board in March. We did a report there that was also updated and submitted on March 5th. The capacity issue with water is certainly much less math to do. You have ample over 145,000 gallons per day in the system to serve the approximately 5,600, I believe, daily demand of the Medline system. The system was designed, it was reviewed by the planning board, its engineering consultants, just like the EIS was sent to the DEC, who, just to jump back, DEC made no comments during the EIS process that the sewer system should change, nor did the health department make any changes related to the water system. It's been designed, reviewed by the engineers who reviewed the EIS, your engineering consultants, the engineers on the planning board. The one other update on the water, and I believe it was mentioned by the supervisor, was the fee was increased, I believe, to $68,355.07 is what I have. Who calculated the 7 cents? I don't.
That's Mike Aiello. Well,
No, but
thank you, Mike, for that 7 cents.
that, you know, that's the figure we have is
Yeah.
updated. So really, that's it in a nutshell.
All right. Any comments from the general public as part of this public hearing?
Hi, this is Karina again. I just have one quick comment. Karina Tipton, Village of Montgomery. I just want to restate that in the case of the water, as I stated for the sewer, only on-site impacts were included in the environmental impact statement. There were no evaluations of cumulative impacts to the surrounding areas. That was not within the purview of the planning board. It's not within the scope of their requirements under SECRA. It is within the scope of the town board's responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. Any other comments for the water public hearing? Any board members on the line that will have any comments?
This is Kristen. I just like how I said with the sewer, I think it's premature to act on extending water lines to that area of our town before the comprehensive plan is completed. You know, we don't know how the comprehensive plan is going to end up saying what's recommended for the zoning and for uses of that area. And you know, if it stays agricultural, then it doesn't need the water usage beyond what it already has right now, which there's no water out there. There's no water pipes under 84 from our wells. So I just think that this is premature acting before the comprehensive plan can before the comprehensive plan committee can complete their due diligence that we've tasked them with.
Thanks, Councilwoman. Any other comments from the town board? Would anyone like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
I'll make the,
Motion made by Councilman Voss, seconded by Ron Feller. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstaining? All right, 4-1. Councilman Brown was opposed. Motion passes. Will, can you explain our options to move forward?
Yeah, the options are you have resolutions before you, resolutions and orders this evening to approve the extensions and vote for them this evening, or you do not have to take the vote this evening. Those are The resolutions are prepared. They incorporate the findings of the town planning board with respect to the environmental impact statement, and the orders were prepared. Some changes were made to them today by my office. We looked them over. At whatever time the board elects to vote for them, they're not going to change from what they are now because both public hearings have been closed. It's entirely up to the board if you want to proceed this evening.
Thank you, Will. I'd like to ask someone to entertain a motion to adopt the resolution for the town of Montgomery to allow Medline Industries into sewer district number 1.
Wait, before you call for that, Brian, I have a really big problem with the fact that we just got the Medline finding statement at 12:02 p.m. today. That is incorporated into, and I did call Will right before this meeting, that is incorporated into the resolution that you're asking for a vote on. That was emailed at 2:42 today. I really think that we need to have a chance to look over what's actually in the finding statement, as the finding statement itself is 61 pages long. And that was not given to us prior to today, and you're calling for a vote on it now? I mean,
Yep.
this is the same thing that the planning board is being tasked with. Documents of this nature and substantial should be given at least a few days in advance before you're going to ask for us to actually take a stance on it.
Okay. Thank you, Kristen. Would anyone like to make a motion? On the first motion, that would be to allow Medline Industries into town of Montgomery sewer district number 1.
I'll make
Before you make the motion, I did not get a chance to read 61 pages of what we received. I didn't get on my email till 4:30. So I kind of agree with Kristen on that. It would have been nice to read it.
Is this something that can be held off and decided at our meeting, at our next board meeting?
This is something that I think we've really specifically been looking at in terms of the water district and its value, and whether or not we want to move forward in putting Medline into the water and sewer district. A lot of the document that you spoke of, the 61 pages, obviously as a formality is in this as well. But that's something that the planning board has taken the last 2 years to really put their brain power into improving and reviewing, and they've done their job for us. And from my standpoint, it's whether or not we think it makes sense for Medline to be in the water and sewer districts, which is something that I believe we should take a vote on this evening. I think we're prepared. I think we've done our due diligence, and I'm ready to move forward. And I just ask someone to make a motion. If anyone is willing to make a motion, a second, we can take a vote on it tonight.
And why can't you take the finding statement out of the decision? If we haven't gotten a chance to read it and review it, I don't think that's fair to ask the board to act on something that came so late today.
I understand where you're coming from. Would any of the board members like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
I'll do a roll call with all the dogs. Councilwoman Melick?
She might be the one on mute now.
Councilwoman
Yeah,
Melick?
we're on mute. Yes.
Yes, okay. Councilwoman Brown?
No. And representing the people? No.
Okay. Councilwoman Voss?
Yes.
Deputy Supervisor Feller?
I spoke to everybody pretty much personally before this, and I think everybody knew what direction I was going in. Personally, I do not like the location of Medline, but I think the arguments made and the calculation that I was looking for did not come out. Based on that, I don't like the fact that we didn't have a chance to read the findings and we're pushed into this vote right now. But strictly on the issue of sewer and water, I will vote yes.
Okay, thank you, Ron. And I vote yes. Resolution passes 4-1. Would ask for a member of the town board to make a motion ask for a motion to allow Medline Industries into Town of Montgomery, Neely Town West Water District.
I'll
I'll
make
make
that.
that. I'll second it then.
Motion made by Councilman Voss, seconded by Councilman Melick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, we have one opposed, 4-1 passed. We will need everyone's signatures on that according to the town clerk. So that is the business for our hearing this evening. With no other business, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.